Hello VC, what's going on? It's me, Will, and I'm back with a new video, and this time to do the 2018 edition of the vinyl tag. You might have seen some VC channels out there doing their own entries or their own videos for the vinyl tag. I've really been enjoying watching a lot of those videos out there. Great way to get to know some new VC members by seeing the responses to the vinyl tag. I did do the one from last year, and it seems to me like a lot of the questions are similar to the ones from last year, but I could be wrong. I didn't go through the list from last year, but I do remember that it was really fun to come up with the answers from the 2017 vinyl tag. So I wanted to make sure I did one for this year, and the same concept as the one from last year. 20 questions about vinyl records or collecting records in general. So yeah, let's go ahead and check it out, and let's start off with question number 1. The first question is, first VC channel you watched. I'm not sure I remember exactly which one was the first VC channel I watched, but I do remember that when I started watching VC videos out there, one of the first ones was, of course, Derek Higgins' channel, and I think a lot of people are mentioning his channel in their responses for this vinyl tag. He's really a VC pioneer, and he's still, up till now, he's making some really great videos out there. Then also Aika Star or Amber. I remember when I got started a few years ago making the VC videos and watching VC videos, her channel was one of the ones that I always watched because she has a lot of knowledge about music, and I don't think she does that many videos anymore. I would say maybe like once or twice a year she posts a video out there, but she is very active in Instagram. She has a great Instagram account, of course, talking about vinyl records and music and new music in general. So make sure that you check out Aika Star Amber in Instagram because she has a great account. Then of course Tudor or Two Turtle, that's the VC or YouTube channel name. Great VC channel, also one of the first ones that I watched in the VC, very focused on the technical aspects of listening to vinyl music. And of course he also makes some videos about records and record updates and things like that. Great VC channel from Tudor. He just recently came back and started posting some new videos on his channel. And also a lot of the veterans from the VC might remember Dave or the Vinyl Vault. He had a channel a long time ago, and I really liked watching his channel because he was just so charismatic, and he would always put a lot of energy and a lot of humor in his videos. Unfortunately, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do videos anymore because of the big thing that happened with the vinyl lottery a few years ago. But I miss his channel because he was just so energetic and so fun to watch. But unfortunately, he doesn't make videos anymore. So those are the 4 VC channels that I remember that I watched back when I just got started watching the VC or VC videos. All right, next question. Favorite record discovered from a VC member or a VC channel. This was a very good question to answer because I find a lot of my music or new music from other VC members and VC videos. But the one that I wanted to give a shout out to for this question is, of course, Dave from The Dark Stuff. That's his YouTube channel name. He also has a radio show in Nebraska. He and I have very similar taste in music, and of course he's always showing up new artists and new bands to check out, and I always do. I always follow his recommendations because he's just so knowledgeable and he has a great taste in music. And one of the artists that I discovered from his channel is actually Courtney Barnett. I picked this CD up, although I should have probably picked it up on vinyl because I love this album. This is Courtney Barnett with her album that came out a couple of years ago. Sometimes I sit and think, and sometimes I just sit. Great album by Courtney Barnett, one of my favorites of that year. And I discovered her from Dave's channel, along many other bands an artist that I discovered from his channel, but that's the one that I could think of for this video. So yeah, thanks Dave for all the recommendations. I'll put a link here in the description to all these channels so you can go ahead and check them out. Next question, what are your other hobbies? And I do have a big hobby, which is concert photography. I do a lot of live music photography. I started doing photography a few years ago, and then just recently, maybe last year or the year before, I started doing it for live music. and I loved it. I would say that that's my main hobby. I'll put a link here in the description to my website, so you can go ahead and check out some of my work. You might have seen in my videos from last year where I talk about concerts, and I put some pictures of the concerts. In most cases, those are my pictures. So just in case you didn't know, and you want to follow me on my Instagram account, I'll also put a link in the description to that. But yeah, that's my main hobby aside from collecting music, collecting vinyl, collecting CDs, and listening to music. Next question. Question 4. Why did you start collecting? I think this question was also included in the one from in the vinyl tag from last year, and I will say the same response. I started collecting back when I was in high school, when I started collecting CDs, because it was really the only way to listen to music back then in the 90s, because of course there was no MP3, there was no streaming services or anything like that, and the radio just played crap, so I just had to buy CDs for my for some of the bands that I wanted to listen to. And since then I always liked to have the physical aspect of music, you know, to be able to see the artwork, to see the cover, to read through the lyrics, the liner notes, learning about the band, seeing their pictures, and having the physical copy of the CD. I was always fascinated about that, and since then I started collecting CDs. Later on, when I went to college, I started collecting some vinyl records. I started a very small collection of vinyl records of just of the stuff that I really liked. Of course, because I was moving a lot when I was in college, so I couldn't handle too many or too much volume of records. But I did start collecting a little bit of vinyl back then, not too much. Again, I still love the physical aspect of it, and being able to see the big artwork in the vinyl copy was just always so amazing. And I just got hooked after that. And later on, when I moved here, I really started collecting more and more vinyl because I had more space for it. Next question. Do you play an instrument, and have you been in a band? Unfortunately, the answer to both of those questions is no. I am not very skilled in any instrument in particular. I kind of mess around a little bit with the guitar, but I'm not really very good at it, and I never really got a hold of it. Someday I would love to get some lessons and be able to say that I know how to play the guitar, but for now, no, I don't play any instruments. And no, I've never been in a band either. Next question 7. Have you ever worked in a record store? The answer to that one is also no. I never got a chance to work at the record store, even though I always wanted to work in a record store, especially when I was in college. I never got the opportunity to do that. But I guess the closest I've been to working in the music industry would be when I was a volunteer or a part of the street team. I was a street team member of the Sony Music record label, which is one of the major labels in music out there. And it was just a volunteering work when I was in college. I didn't get paid, but it was really fun anyways, because the job involved handing out flyers and stickers at the end of concerts. Outside the door, you would just hand out over promotional material to the people that were leaving the shows. And it was really fun because I got to go to a lot of concerts for free when I was in college, and also I got to get a lot of promo items like CDs and vinyl records as well back then in the early 2000s, which was kind of rare, especially some of the vinyl that I got from when I was part of the street team in Sony Music back then. And yeah, it was really fun. I didn't get paid, but it was fine just getting the records and the free concert tickets. Next question. Favorite album from the year you were born? And this one was really hard for me to answer because I'm not a big fan of the music from the 80s, but I did have a favorite one from 1984. I was born in that year, and it is the Bangles with All Over the Place. Great album by the Bangles. I would say also extremely influential on a lot of the music that I listen to nowadays. Bands like the Muffs, very influential or very influenced in the music from the Bangles. So that's my pick for my favorite album from 1984. Question 9. Classic record you have never heard. Really, there's too many to mention. I don't actively look or listen to classic records. I'm not. I try to focus mostly on newer kind of music and newer bands. But if I had to mention one, I guess I would say something by the Beatles. And I have heard, I would say, most of their studio albums. But one of the famous ones that I have never listened to in its entirety is one of their first albums, Rubber Soul. So the Beatles with Rubber Soul, that will be my pick for the classic record I've never heard. Question 10, show a guilty pleasure record. And I think I also mentioned this one in the vinyl tag from last year, but my guilty pleasure go-to album is Alanis Morissette with Jagged Little Pill. Excellent album. I grew up listening to this one, but I would still consider it a guilty pleasure. And a great album by Alanis Morissette, but still I would say that it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure. And in my definition of a guilty pleasure is something that if you listen to it in your car and somebody walks by close to your car, the windows go up. That's my definition of a guilty pleasure. All right, question 11, strangest record you own. And this one was another one that was really hard for me to answer because I don't really own that many strange looking records or rare records, I would say. But I did went through my collection. I found something that I found at a thrift store not so long ago, and this Sticks with Paradise Theater. And I think this may be an original copy because it does come in with something really strange or something that I've never seen before on a vinyl record, especially an old one like this one. But I guess it's kind of like a hologram that they included in the grooves. There's actually music in this side of the record, and they included this weird hologram. I'm not sure how well you can see it right there, but it's really cool looking. It just says Sticks, and it has some artwork from the cover. Really cool looking stuff, and I've only listened to this one once, but it does play just fine. And again, I've never seen any kind of artwork included in the grooves itself of the record, so I thought that was kind of strange for a vinyl record to have that. But yeah, that's the only one that I have that is kind of like that. All right, next question. Show a picture disc. I do have a handful of picture discs. Most of them are actually hanging on my wall right here. I have like the Green Day Dookie and Rancid right there in my wall. But I did have one. I picked this one from Record Store Day from last year, and this is the Sex Pistols with Nevermind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, classic album by the band, in picture disc format. Great looking record. All right, next question. Favorite posthumous release. So a record that was released after the death of someone. Easy answer for me. One of my favorite artists of all time, Joey Ramone, with Christmas Spirit. Christmas Spirit in My House. And this one also came out on Record Store Day a few years ago. From Joey Ramone, of course, released after his death. Again, I'm a huge fan of the Ramones, so I had to pick something by him. And this is a 10-inch EP that came in from Record Store Day. All right, the next question is, which artist do you impulsively buy? And I would say that I have just a handful of bands that I really collect pretty much everything that they release. Those are obviously my favorite bands, like the Ramones, which I'm almost done with my collection of original Ramones vinyl records. I think I'm missing just a couple of them, but pretty much anything that they release, even the new reissues, I still try to collect those ones as well. The Muffs is another band that I am a huge fan of, and I buy anything that they come up with. I even have multiple copies. This is actually the only band that I have multiple copies of the same album and different versions of it, like different colors or anything like that. I just buy anything that they release. Sonic Youth is another one which I'm trying to build my collection on Sonic Youth records. The thing is that's kind of difficult because it's kind of expensive, the Sonic Youth albums, especially the original ones, but I'm trying to collect almost anything, everything by them. And of course, one of my favorite bands, Green Day, and also Radiohead. I just buy anything that they come up with, especially nowadays. Next question, best blind buy. And I think I also answered this question in the last year's vinyl tag. It's my go-to blind buy because I love this album. This is the Coat Hangers with Nosebleed Weekend. I don't really buy that many records as that I don't know of or haven't listened to before, but this one was one of them. I was at a record store with my girlfriend, and she recommended this band. She said, punk rock band from Atlanta, you will like this, I know you. And she does know me very well because this album is awesome. I didn't know anything about them before. I checked them out and I loved it. A great punk rock album by the Atlanta-based band, the Coat Hangers. Highly recommended you check out the Coat Hangers. Anything by them is great. All right, the next question is blind spot artist, and I've been seeing some of the responses on the VC or some of the VC channels, and I've seen that people have different ways to some different interpretations of this question. Some people are saying that it's usually the artists that are usually ignored, but you like, and some people are saying that it's the opposite, or of an artist or a band that people love and you just don't like, or you just could not get into them. And I decided to take the second interpretation, as far as the artist that, or a band that everybody seems to love but you just don't like at all. And my answer for that question would be Pill, or Public Image Limited. It's a band that a lot of people in the VC especially seem to love. I just never got into them, even though I'm a big fan of the Sex Pistols. I just never could get into Public Image Limited. That will be my answer for blind spot artist. All right, question 17, favorite album cover. I would say I don't really have one favorite album cover. I like a lot of album covers, but I never really thought about having one favorite album cover. But if I had to pick one right now, I just went briefly through my collection and I picked this one, which is actually my favorite album of all time, The Pixies with Doolittle. I just always loved the artwork in this one. I also have it in a poster here in my wall. I don't think you can see it there, but it is right there. I always loved the artwork with the monkey and the halo and the numbers, and referencing some of the lyrics in some of the songs. I always loved the artwork in this one. All right, the next question is a musician that you have met. And I have met a lot of musicians that might be famous for me. I've met a lot of bands and band members and artists that are kind of famous, I guess, in the indie rock and the punk music world. But they're not necessarily famous in like a mainstream way. But I would say that I had to pick one. I would go with Lee Ranaldo, formerly of Sonic Youth. He was one of the singers and one of the guitar players of Sonic Youth. And he came over to Atlanta and he played a solo set in a very intimate venue here in the city. And after the show, he just stayed in and hang out with the fans, and he talked to everybody. And I think I mentioned this in one of my videos from last year. Nicest guy in the world. He just stayed in and talked to everybody. He talked about Sonic Youth, about his solo stuff, about travel, about his life. He's just a great guy, nicest guy in the world. And if I had to go with one, it would be Lee Ranaldo from Sonic Youth. Next question, record with a sentimental value. I'll go with Green Day, of course, because of the nostalgia aspect of Green Day. I grew up listening to this band, and in particular listening to this album Nimrod from 1997. I used to have this album on cassette when it came out back in the 90s when I was in high school, and I wore out that tape. I listened to that album almost every day. I think I actually listened to that album every day. It was that good. I was obsessed with that album, and it's one of the first albums that really got me into listening to music. So I really appreciate that record or that album. Finally, I got the reissue for the 20th anniversary edition of the album last year, and this is my pick for a sentimental album. Green Day with Nimrod. Next question, favorite album that nobody knows about. I would say this one took me a little bit of time to come up with, but because I do listen to a lot of underground bands that a lot of people don't know, but I had to pick one. It would be the Soviets, Minneapolis, Minnesota band, punk rock band. They released only 3 albums back in the early 2000s. The 3 albums are excellent. This one is my favorite by them, LP3. Of course, the first album was LP1, second album was LP2, and the third album was LP3. On Fat Records, excellent punk rock band, fast pace, high energy, right up my alley. I love it. I love everything about this record. Unfortunately, this band broke up back in the mid 2000s. I got a chance to see them live once, and they were awesome. But yeah, they broke up and they just disappeared from everywhere because I don't think they formed any new bands after that. But I was always very impressed with their music, and if I had to pick something that most people don't know, it would be the Soviets. Do yourself a favor, check out this album. LP3 is excellent. And finally, the last question of the Vinyl Tag 2018, genre that you don't know that well. And I did have to think about this one quite a bit because there's a lot of genres that I just don't listen to. But if I decided to go with funk because it's a genre that I don't know anything about. But I was at a thrift store just a few weeks ago and I picked this record for $1, and it is War with this one's Why Can't We Be Friends. Love the title of the album, and of course a classic record, a classic song by the band. And I did listen to this one just yesterday and I love it. I love everything about it. I just love how positive it is, how upbeat it is. And I would love to know more about funk music. Definitely War is one of the ones that I'm gonna try to check out some more of their records. But if you have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments because I would love to know more about, not only about War, but just funk music in general. That would be one of the genres that I really don't know much about. Alright, VC, those are all the 20 questions for the Vinyl Tag 2018. I really been enjoying all your videos about this Vinyl Tag. It's been really fun to get to know everybody again, or learning new things about the VC members, and learning new things about new VC members too. Yeah, that's all I have for you today. I'll be back fairly soon with a new video. I have been picking up a lot of things on vinyl, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching and take care. Bye bye.